I think when I first started out, I think I was like ultimately shy about being a guy writing poetry.
Yeah.
And, so I did it anonymously, and as it kind of started to grow, something happened where I kind of doubled down on this whole idea. I basically reached a fork in the road. And the thing that happened was a friend of mine who was from the same small island I'm from in Canada. He happened to be like quite famous and very famous. He was on like one of the biggest shows on television, and he died in a hotel in Vancouver of what I would call complications of fame, and it really rattled like myself and some other, like many others. So I reached this place where I was like, I could take off the mask. This was early days, and I was like, I could come out, take off the mask, and probably be famous, or I could remain anonymous and keep it about the words and really try to distance myself from the fame, but still try to spread, this art, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and then by doing so, it actually makes it almost more intriguing, because it's like, I don't know who this person is. Like there's almost a mystery to it. Like when you have a mystery, a secret admirer, and then you just find out it's like Bob from the hardware store. You're like, oh, well, it's just Bob. But before it's Bob, you don't know, and so you're like, oh, who could it be?
Have you seen that Family Guy? It's like, where he's like, all right, you can have $10,000. Or you can have what's in the box. And it's like, I'll take what's in the box. It could be anything. It could be $10,000. I think it was a boat, actually.
That's funny. So so it clearly is working.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly makes things more difficult. There's been some times where I'm like, oh, this is so annoying, and my agents and my publisher and will always be like, hey, what about taking off the mask? You could do some you could do the Today Show, or whatever. And it's just like showing up to this podcast and being like, okay, how can we film it where it's just not showing my face? But I'm not sacred about it, and it's changing. But for me, it's just out of principle. It's kind of like, saying to this person who passed away in my past, and it's like saying, hey, let's do this. Let's go as far as we can without being recognized. And I've seen, have you heard the quote by Bill Murray, who says, if you want to become rich and famous, become rich first and then see if you still want to be famous. And Jim Carrey's got one that's kind of like that. You may have heard
something
it.
like, what is it? Like, everyone wants to be rich and famous.
Yeah, I hope everybody becomes rich and famous, so they realize that's not what they were looking for. And listen, I think it's a double-edged sword, and it can give you great podium, and it can give you this incredible experience. There's really amazing, cool things about fame, for sure. But there's also a negative side, and it's just being, I just challenge people to be really aware of that, of both those sides.